All right.
Hey everyone, welcome to Kitchen Party. Kitchen Party, Kitchen Party. I'm thinking maybe we should start a new thing where we're like, ooh, ooh, Kitchen Party.
Raise the roof.
Kathy,
I think we've been doing that every week. I don't think we have to start something. I think we've been doing it.
First, I want to tell the folks who are listening at home, if you're watching and you watch every week, this is Kitchen Party. Thank you so much for joining us again every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. My name is Babette Pepaj. I am the founder of BakeSpace.com, and I don't know if you can hear in the background, I have a little puppy that basically he sees a cat, and he wants that cat so badly, so he's whimpering. So occasionally I may mute my mic if he gets out of control, but I figure, you know, that's what live shows are all about. Let me introduce my co-host, Rene Lynch from the LA Times. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick and say hello to the people?
Sure. My name is Rene Lynch. I'm a writer and editor at the LA Times, and I work across a number of sections, including food and health.
Which is your favorite?
You know, they go hand in hand because I really like to eat, and then I have to go exercise. So there you go.
Well, you know, I'm really good at the eating part. The exercising, I haven't really mastered it.
Yeah, I should really say more food and fitness because that's more of my thing. Health stuff, maybe healthy.
If you're following at home, you can use the hashtag KitchenParty on Twitter and on Google+. We follow that hashtag. Rene follows the Twitter feed, and I follow the Google+ page. Oh, did you hear the dog?
Yeah.
That's his, like, he's raising the roof. He's raising the roof. That's El Bizzle. He's my one of my rescues. First of all, I want to introduce our guest today, which is Cathy Chaplin from Gastronomyblogcom. Cathy, do you want to tell the folks a little bit about you and where they can find you online?
Sure. Yes, well, I am at Gastronomy Blog on all platforms that use the @ and for website, it's gastronomyblog.com, and I started this site in 2006 when I was bored at work one day. I found that I was spending my time just surfing food blogs, and I was like, well, I'll just start one, because what you do when you're bored at work is actually what you want to do. And here we are.
What year was that?
That was 2006.
2006. That is awesome.
Yes.
That is awesome. So let's see. That's blog to book in what? 8 years?
7 years? Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah. I can't say that I've been trying for a book since I launched the blog, but the book happened, and it's such a great fit for the site. It was just what I love to write about and just what I know about. So it was a great fit.
For those of you who are watching at home, the topic for tonight's show, and the dog stopped barking, so now I can talk. The topic for tonight's show is blog to book, and sort of the themes and sort of how you prepare and what kind of direction you want to go in. But we're also talking about LA food, too. Rene and I and Cathy are all in Los Angeles. So if you have any questions about where to eat in LA, you're traveling here, you're hanging out, or you're just tired of eating the same old, like, 5 restaurants, which is what I do all the time, post a comment on Google Plus and on Twitter, and we will make sure that that Cathy gets your question as well. So I guess, you know, I started BakeSpace in 2006. I think that was, like, the year everything started happening in food.
The year everyone was bored at work?
Yeah, exactly. I was actually producing television, and I did a whole bunch of reality shows, and I took some time off in between them, and I was like, oh, I want to start something really cool. And I was like, what can I do? I was like, food. So was that sort of, how did you pick food or pick LA food as opposed to, like, gardening or cars or tech?
That's a good question. Well, I was in a pretty quant-heavy position doing a lot of statistical analysis, so I really just wanted a creative outlet. And I guess I landed on food because those were the sites I was drawn to most. I was reading Noodle Pie. This is when I was in Philadelphia at the time. I was reading Noodle Pie. He was in Saigon traveling, eating street food. And I was like, well, this is the stuff that excites me. And I actually didn't know what I was doing, so I started a food blog on Zanga, on Blogspot, and on WordPress. And I thought that if I wanted multiple topics, I needed to do multiple sites. So At one point, I had like 20 different sites, but now I get it. I could start a page. I could have different categories. But yeah, I started just because it was what I was interested in. I didn't think too deeply about it. I also had like a personal site for many years, just about like, this was my day. I went running. I went to dinner here. But so this one, I wanted to focus on restaurants and recipes. And I wanted something generic, or that I could travel anywhere. It wasn't like Cathy Eats Philly, thank goodness. It was just gastronomy, so it could be anything.
Are you from Philadelphia originally?
I am not. I am from San Diego, California. I went back east for school, and that's how I got my job in Philadelphia. But I eventually moved to Los Angeles 6 years ago because my husband started school, graduate school at Caltech. So I'd never thought about living in LA before, but now I can't imagine honestly living anywhere else.
Wow, that's a big recommendation for LA. Rene,
it's amazing.
Rene, you came from New Jersey, but
right. I grew up in New Jersey.
How did you get to LA?
I took a job. I was at the Daily News up in the Valley, and that was my first big job out of college. So I was there. I came to Southern California, and I assumed that I would spend. I was going to be here for 365 days because I thought I would have 1 year on the resume, and then I'd leave and go back to New York because in my book, if you did not live in Manhattan, it was not worth living. And I went to school in Manhattan, so I was just convinced that I had to get back there. And, of course, I spent one winter out here, and I was like, I'm never going back. And I completely fell in love with Southern California and the culture and, of course, the food. And I feel like this area really helped turn me into a foodie. And I don't think you could get me out of Southern California now.
Rene, was your beat food?
I'm sorry?
Was your first original beat?
No. I was a hard news reporter. I covered courts and cops and politics and everything. Yeah. No, I was not involved in food at all. But as Cathy said, I love what I just tweeted that out, that what you end up doing when you're bored at work is what you really want to do with your life, because when I would leave like these very kind of in some ways very serious, dire circumstances during the day, covering people in horrible situations, really, I'd come home and I'd be like, the Bon Appetit is here! Gourmet arrived in the mailbox! I'd like sit down on the couch, and that's all I wanted to do. So I love being involved in food and then fitness in any way.
Sure.
So, Cathy, when you went from Philadelphia, because we did a TECHmunch in Philadelphia about a year ago, and I loved the people, I loved the community, I loved the food. What was it like, food-wise, going from San Diego to Philadelphia, then to LA? What was that? Was that a weird transition, like just the diets?
I can tell you if there was a graph of how much I started spending, it would go like this. But when I was in Philly, I was just sort of, so I guess it's important to mention my brother at this point, because he's 4 years older than me. When I was in college, he was in New York City, and he would come and take me out to dinner, or I would go to New York for Thanksgiving and whatnot. And it was a meal with him where they presented us with amuse-bouches at the end, like little sweets. And I thought that this was just the greatest thing ever, like having dessert and then having more dessert, and then it was encouraged, and it wasn't just about like eating because you're hungry, it's eating because it's fun. So my brother really kind of played a major role in this shift for me of like food for sustenance versus food for pleasure and just socializing. So I think by the time I landed in LA, I was totally on board. Food is for socializing. But when I was living in Philly, I was still, trying to cook healthy at home and maybe just going out on the weekends. And I think the funny thing about the Philly food scene is that it's BYOB. And so you could just go to these little restaurants and bring your own booze, no corkage, and that was amazing. And also that the whole town is run by one guy named Steven Starr. He's a restaurateur, and he just kind of dominates. And I don't think there's, in LA, sure, we've got Wolfgang and the Patina group, but I wouldn't say one restaurant group just, dominates the scene. So those were just the two kind of notable things about eating in Philly.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. Do you know if that person still is dominating the Philadelphia food scene? I'm not that familiar with it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so he opened the first Morimoto. He opened Budokan, which is now New York City. So now he has expanded from Philly. He has some restaurants in the meatpacking district in New York, and then he also is like taking over Atlantic City. And yeah, he's very impressive guy. The Mid-Atlantic belongs to him.
Wow. Ooh, that sounds like a good story. I think I'm going to get a good story tip out of this.
All right, Steven Starr.
Rene, it's supposed to work the other way.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to say I would give a shout out on Google+. We have Nichelle Stevens, who said she met Cathy at a Cinnabon event in Seattle in either 2008 or 2009 or 2010. So she said, "Hi, Cathy." Priscilla Willis also is tuning in too, and we have Ikram. Oh my gosh, I'm going to totally butcher this name. Kayam. I hope I did okay with that. Cindy Jameson, Deborah Eckerling is also. Deborah is here in Los Angeles as well. Eric Deutsch, who's my better half. Kitchen Shaman also said, would love to join the chat today. So hopefully you're going to be tweeting along and sending some messages as well, Kitchen Shaman. So welcome. Hey, Rene, anyone on Twitter check in?
We actually do have a few people on Twitter. We have Eat the Ball, who says, hey, it's our first time on KitchenParty. And it sounds like, let's see, Kimberly Tronick is also there. Hey, Kimberly. And Cookie School. We gotta love Cookie School, right? BakeSpace Cookie School.
You know, they just tweeted me out today. They're doing a Kickstarter campaign where it's a whole like educational thing around cookies. And it was like, I just heard the word cookie, and I was like,
we're like. And
How
then
can I help?
BMom SC is also joining us. So thanks very much. We're so glad you're here.
Yay! Something's weird today. I've been really clumsy. I walked through my house and my hand hit a glass and I broke it. And then I went to go do something in the medicine cabinet and it fell. And how
many gin and tonics did you have?
I'm really clumsy today. I'm like, something is wrong. I feel like I'm gonna hit something and like the webcam's gonna go bling. You know? So I apologize in advance, my people. So
if that happens, we'll just keep going. We want you to pay attention.
Thank you, Rene. That's why you and I are. We're like one.
Exactly.
No one's seen us except maybe at TECHmunch LA, or actually in Austin. No one has seen us like together
in
at
a
the
long
same
time.
So maybe. Okay, so 2006 you launched the blog. Now, when did it go from like you started writing a little bit, and then when you had like 20 blogs, how did you know to narrow it down? And is it because you said you had a personal blog, and I have like a personal Twitter account called Bad Cupcake, and I'm like, that's where I'm gonna say what I really want to say, blah blah blah. But I forget to post. I just forget. So how did you narrow it down and move forward?
I think I discovered, so somehow, and I can't tell you the thought process, but I landed on WordPress. Thank goodness. And then I discovered, categories and such and pages, and then it all made sense that I didn't need to have, a blog for eating Asian food, for eating diner food, for eating Jewish food. But that came together, and then I killed off the other blogs. Gosh, that was a lot of questions. So that's how I narrowed it down to one blog. And what were the other questions, Babette?
How did you know when it started, like when you started to take off?
Okay.
A lot of people start as like a hobby. They start to archive their recipes or their thoughts or a diary, and then all of a sudden the next thing they know, they're like, what are all these people doing here?
Yeah, I would say that there wasn't like an exact moment, like when, the traffic just went bow straight up. It was a gradual climb. So when I lived in Philly, it was like people in Philly were reading it, and then after I moved from Philly to live in Saigon for a year, I picked up a lot of people who lived in Vietnam, as well as Vietnamese Americans, Vietnamese in Australia, Vietnamese in Europe, and then and it kept building. And the more cities I visit, it's the more people I pick up from those cities based on just restaurants. And I never had, huge ambitions for the site, only because I mean, recipes are key for SEO and traffic, and I did recipes when I really felt like it, but it was restaurants that excited me. So even though I knew that no one's really going to search Mama's Lou Restaurant, Monterey Park, California, it was just what I wanted to write about and what excited me, so I just went for it. But maybe the moment when I thought my blog was more than just a personal space was when I was working for an expat magazine in Vietnam, and there was this amazing woman outside of our office, and she made a different noodle soup every day. And this is actually notable because the food vendors in Vietnam, they're very highly specialized. If they're going to make crepes with pork, they're going to make crepes with pork. That is their specialty, and it's true across the board. But because she made a different noodle soup every day, I definitely wanted to write about her on my site and at the magazine. And Anthony Bourdain and his folks at, I think, 0.0, they reached out and they made a whole segment on her for their Vietnam episode based on this article that I wrote, about what she does from when she wakes up in the morning to when she makes the noodle soups and goes home for the day. Yeah, so I was like, that was incredible. And then also, there was just certain moments, like when there was a banh mi article in the New York Times. That was a crazy day for traffic. But yeah, it's been a wild ride.
How did you find yourself in Vietnam?
Good question. Well, so when I was in college, I wanted to study abroad in Vietnam, but my mother was paying the bills back then, and she was not going to do it. My family left in 1975 because it was communist, and they were afraid if I went there, I would become communist and blah, 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 blah. So, but when I reached kind of a crossroads in my first career as a social policy researcher, I was like, well, this is the perfect time to go and live abroad like I've always wanted to do. So yeah, that's what I did, and Mom couldn't really say no because I was going to pay for it. And and the reason why I wanted to go is because I'm Vietnamese American, and I think I was born in San Diego. All my life I've been introducing myself, as a Vietnamese person, and if I really thought about the time, I really didn't know, like, what does being Vietnamese mean? So I really thought it was essential to live in Vietnam and to, I guess, tell a difference between what's an overarching, encompassing Vietnamese way versus just the way that my family is, like a very specific example of Vietnamese people. So that's why I wanted. I was like, what does it mean to be Vietnamese? You can only find out in Vietnam.
My dad's Albanian, and so I have sort of a similar background where I feel like I have a connection to a whole culture. But even though I'm like completely, I'm Americanized, I still feel like if someone says, "Oh, Albanian," whatever, I'm like, "What?" I'm there. You got me. Now, you have your book is called Food Lover's Guide to Los Angeles. Is the next book going to be like Food Lover's Guide to Saigon? What is the...
Actually, who I mentioned before, Noodle Pie, he's gonna write that book. Actually, he's writing it for Bourdain's imprint, and I am so excited because, I like to write, I like my writing, but I love Noodle Pie's writing because he's British and just they just have a way with words. So yes. That's going to be his story to tell, but I constantly go to Vietnam, so I'm updating, where I think the best spots are on my own site. But I actually don't know what's next. I didn't plan to write this book, and I'm totally open to, everything that comes my way. So we'll see what's next.
How did you know to start, or how did you come to the decision that you wanted to focus down on restaurant stories as opposed to continuing with writing recipes or doing other kind of more diary-like material?
Yeah, I wanted to write about what I wanted to read, and I was, in the days before Yelp, and, City Search was king, and Zagat still meant something. I was just always searching for restaurant reviews, and I would do more recipes these days, but it's a matter of time and natural light. Natural light is a killer for blogging. So, Yeah, I mean, this year I haven't even posted a single recipe yet, and it's sort of killing the SEO, but whatever.
But there's such an incredible competition or I think both a competition but also a thirst for recipes that it's kind of a very conscious decision to say I'm going to be a food blog that maybe dabbles in that once in a while, but really I'm about this other thing. Given the kind of thirst for recipes, did you struggle with that at all in the beginning, thinking that maybe it would be better traffic-wise to do recipes? Because I think some people who may be tuning in are maybe wondering, what do you go for? Do you maybe try to go for the traffic, or do you go for the thing that you love? How do you make that decision?
Oh man, for me it was never like a tough decision, just because when I created gastronomy, back in the day, it was always a creative outlet. It was mine, period. And it's always cool to have spikes in traffic because something gets stumbled upon, but it wasn't what drove me, and I never thought to quit my job and make all my money off this site. So it was always a safe space in that way. It was my space to do what I wanted to do. So yeah, it wasn't a real struggle, but right now I've landed on recipes and on restaurants, and I haven't really looked back. No regrets, but I do want to do more recipes because, not for the SEO, because there's some pretty obscure recipes that I have in my inbox that I need to do, but just because I want to have a record of it. They're mostly Vietnamese dishes that my mom or my grandma have taught me, and I just want to have access to them. That's actually really the recipes that inspire me the most. And when I post these days, it's to like get down a family recipe that I want to prepare for myself in a decade, and it will be there.
Right. I'm curious, when you finally did go to Vietnam that first time, what did your mom say? She couldn't stop you because you said you were paying for yourself, but what did she think about it?
They all thought I was nuts. But it ended up being, yes, so my family's pretty big, and my grandma had 8 kids, and everyone has an opinion, and they are not afraid to, express it to me. But they all thought I was nuts. Of course, they came to America for a better life, a non-communism life, and I'm making a conscious decision to go back to the land that they were trying to escape from. But it ended up being great because it was kind of like, and I think my grandparents would agree, I think my mother would agree, it was creating a bridge as a Vietnamese-born American and having relationships with my grandmother's sister and building relationships with my grandfather's brother, and also just my husband now, my boyfriend at the time, he actually learned Vietnamese while we were living there. So the fact that me, Vern, and my grandma can kick it is awesome. And it's great. We could go to the grocery store. We could go hang out in her bedroom. It's fantastic. And no, I don't. And I've inspired some of my younger cousins to want to do the same. And I think it's only been a very positive experience. I'm so it's one thing that I'm super glad that I did in my life.
Wow. So I have to say, it sounds to me like you almost maybe have a little bit of a memoir with recipes, no? Richard, Cathy, we want you to write another book. We're not going to let you go until we commit you to another book.
Okay. Well, something that I do really want to do, and it would be one of those things where, I don't need anyone to buy it, but I do need to do a family history project. I need to just get these stories down and totally, and not even my story. I don't really think my story is that interesting, but I think my family's story is extraordinarily interesting. So I do, as a writer, I do want to have a family history project, something for the family, but, and I don't know who would be interested in buying it, but...
Well, I actually think the concept of being a bridge is very, very interesting, and I think it's interesting cross-culturally because we live in a time where you can do that, but not very long ago that would actually have likely been impossible, right? Just because of limitations on travel and difficulties for just women traveling abroad, without a husband to tell them what to do. That's a relatively modern phenomenon. But that sounds very interesting to me.
Oh, thanks, Rene. I will definitely. I've been thinking about it for a while.
She's like, leave me alone, people.
This isn't called kitchen party. This is called kitchen work. Like
Kitchen intervention.
We're like your guidance counselors. Like you sit down with us.
Right.
No, I love it. No, I mean, it's funny. I'm in this realm of the blog. I really am the person that kind of takes it as it comes, you know? And so I really appreciate just having a little push too and making things happen as opposed to just waiting for things to happen. So no, thank you.
Now, speaking of the book, let's talk about the process of how it came to be and the process of like getting it published. Can you kind of bring us to the beginning and walk us through?
Yes, and it's very anticlimactic, but I will tell you how it all went down. My husband and I and my mother, we were vacationing 2 summers ago. We were in Paris, and I received, of all things, not an email, but a Facebook message from an editor in Connecticut, and she pretty much said, there's a series, it's called the Food Lovers series. You know, they've done it for New York City, Brooklyn, San Diego. They've never done it for Los Angeles, and they asked if I wanted to write it. And I said, you know, and then I was like, I don't know. So I talked to some previous writers who had written the other editions, and I did a little research myself, and then I was like, sure, why not? It was a great opportunity, really, for me to just eat everywhere I've always wanted to eat. And also, there isn't, and I wanted to share my LA. I mean, I moved here 6 years ago. The only impressions I had of LA before I moved here was that the traffic.
Oh, wait, did we lose her?
You know what that is? That is the traffic gods. Like
did we lose her?
Let's see if she comes back. We'll get her to come back in a second. I was like, LA traffic, they know what we're going to say. They're like, it's the traffic. We're like, oh no, you didn't.
Where they come from Far East to like Rolling Heights. Oops.
Cathy.
Yeah.
Hold on one second. You know what happened? You froze.
Oh no.
The last thing we heard you talk about was traffic.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
We have to go back. We'll
Okay. Oh man, I said some really good stuff.
Say it again.
So
thanks, Google.
From a San Diegan's, growing up in San Diego, the only impressions I had of LA was that there was a lot of traffic. And, I had vague notions of the LA riots. Like, that was, like, the only times when LA came onto my radar. And when I moved to LA 6 years ago, the city just spoke to me right away. And a lot of people who live in LA just stay in their neighborhoods because every neighborhood has everything that you need, really. There is a Trader Joe's, there is a Target, and there is a Macy's. And so no one really has to leave their neighborhoods, but because of food and just seeking out the very best of what LA has to offer.
Oh, we did lose her.
Oh, no, she'll know to come back. She'll click on that link. There she goes.
The traffic gods were like, no, this time we're kicking you out. You said it again, we're kicking you out.
Oh, no. This is awful.
No,
you're back.
You know what?
Okay, Cathy,
all the time, right?
I think we've realized you cannot say the word traffic, okay? That word.
Okay, there are a lot of cars. Oh, man, this is terrible. All right. Third time's a charm. This happens all the time, right?
Right, it does.
Okay. It's a new technology. Okay. All right. So growing up in San Diego, I had 2 impressions of LA. There was a lot of cars, yes, and sometimes they don't move on a road. And there were the riots. And that's all I thought about LA. But when I moved here, it really hit me with its awesomeness right away. I find that a lot of people who aren't food fanatics who live in LA, they're pretty happy living in their neighborhoods because every neighborhood is pretty complete. There is a Trader Joe's, there's a Target, there's a Macy's, there's a farmer's market, everyone's happy. You don't have to leave your neighborhood ever. But if you are a food fanatic and you want to travel to eat the very best fried chicken, the very best dumplings, it's the best excuse ever to infiltrate neighborhoods that you have no business being in. And that's my LA, and that's what I wanted to capture in the Food Lover's Guide to LA. To think of LA not as, this little Hollywood bubble that eats salads and detoxes, but just the real LA, the LA that loves to eat, the LA that feeds its, communities so well. And also it was a great way to highlight the people or the LA food community that has come into my life these past 6 years. It's amazing how lucky we are to have this community of food lovers and people just very open to sharing experiences. I think that's rare to just, have this community both online and in person to just eat together. And one of my favorite pages in the book is the acknowledgments, and it has everyone's handles. Because really, LA is so big, I could not have written this book alone and have it be, anywhere what it is, as this without the help from all of my friends in the LA food community, people who are passionate and fanatical about, sushi and everything.
I tried to go to, there's a group called LA Foodies, and there's a guy named Daryl that runs like these meetups all over the city. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time that I discovered, I was like, oh, there are people who want to all meet and eat together. I was like, who are these people? But I had become a vegetarian, and a lot of the places they picked was like Korean barbecue, and I'm like, oh. Yeah. But I'm always amazed in LA when people won't go past the 405. Like they'll be at the beach. I'm like, do you realize all the best restaurants are past the 405? Like you're in a bubble. You have no idea what the world is out there. Rene, you're down south. What a cool community in that area as well. Like you're in
I feel like I am always going south. We're in Orange County, we're in Long Beach, but it's not often that I get to eat out on the west side. Like, it is a treat for us to go up to LA and eat, even though I work in LA every day, because, it's just because of the T word, and it's just so hard to get around and to navigate, So we just, I feel very lucky because there's so much to do in Orange County. I love being able to eat out in Orange County. There's so many great restaurants, but that does kind of, the T word prevents how much you can actually go out and do. But I will say that this is a book that just makes you want to sit in traffic all day and just drive all over the place for all these delicious foods and delicious dishes, and it really just explores just so much of the area. We're very lucky to have so many different kinds of foods here, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I mean, we just have the highest concentration of so many, different peoples in LA, and they feed themselves, and then we can infiltrate the communities and have the best.
How do you think that actually compares to, like, New York City? I bet you New York City or San Francisco, they love to brag that they have the most diversity. But what do you think?
No way. I mean, every city has its charms, but so my brother, who's been living in Manhattan since he graduated from college, thinks of himself as a New Yorker now. He came to LA a couple weekends ago, and I was actually out of town, but he G-chatted me the other day and said, LAOC has the best Asian food. And as a New Yorker, it's like, it feels like he's offering up something. My response was, of course, but so one New Yorker who is very hard to please believes that it's the best for Asian food, and I mean, we definitely have that on lock.
Hey, we got a thing on Google Plus from Kitchen Shaman. Kitchen Shaman said, I loved working with chefs from LA. They're usually easier to talk with and work with, and then say the guys from New York, or Chicago. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at reading. I don't know what my problem is. And then Michelle, also from Cupcakes Take the Cake, said Rene should be a book agent.
Pitch me, Rene, pitch me.
Second career.
You're hilarious. So now, how long did it take for the book from beginning to end to get published? Like when you signed on and you said, I'm going to do it. What was that process like?
Well, I just decided that I was actually working for Chef Mary Sue Milliken at the time, and I decided that if I really wanted to, like, rock this book, I would need to devote, all of my energies to it. So I actually, left the position and I devoted. It was actually a 4-month window. It was all that was allowed from research to writing. Like, they wanted it within 4 months, which was crazy talk. But I did it. And I actually never really, I was like, really? 4 months? And they're like, yes. I was like, well, how about 6 months? I'm like, no. I'm like, okay. I mean, it's really, I don't understand book publishing any more than I did before I wrote this book. I just know that I mean, if I make myself do something, I'll do it. And spreadsheets are helpful.
I have a question about that. How did you manage to keep track of all this stuff? Because it's like almost each page is like an individual chapter with different details and phone numbers, and I mean, just knowing what we have to go through at the paper to keep track of that kind of detail, it's mind-boggling that you were able to do so much in 4 months.
Thank you. Well, my goal was actually to write, I think, five entries a day. I thought that would 5 entries a day, but then on weekends I would eat at like 10 to 12 places on Saturday and on Sunday.
Okay, why did we not have these invitations?
Yeah, exactly.
What is going on?
I needed people so badly. Actually, we had a whole system. This is my husband and some friends that came to help us. So at first we just took home a lot of leftovers, and so then we had a ton of styrofoam. We felt really bad for like killing the earth. So then we started bringing in our own Tupperware and just packing things away. So that made us feel better. Then we had food for the whole week. We didn't have to bother cooking. And yeah, so the spreadsheets help me to keep all the chapters in order and help me see what I've written before, that I've written about and what I haven't written about and what I still need to eat. It was really a lot of spreadsheets. And
were you able to pull from material that you had already written for the blog, or did everything have to be newly researched?
No, I was able to pull from the site, and it was pretty easy to adapt it. I didn't want to say I in my book at all, so I just really had to take it out from first person, and yeah, I thought I would somehow discount it because it wasn't. Yeah, I wanted a different voice for the book from the blog, so just changing the tone at some points, and if I had like a cheesy or corny joke, to take that out. Some things just don't fly in print,
I was thinking your voice, because your voice in person is so lovely, and it's like, hello. Like the voice in the book is like, eat at this place. Because you don't use I. You're like, I'm going to tell you where to eat. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's a more authoritative voice, right? It's a more
Yeah. You have to own it. If you're gonna write a guide, people need to trust you, and you need to trust yourself. And so I think it's important to just state things. Period.
I like that.
If you were to have this idea and you were to pitch somebody this, like, say you weren't part of like the publishing, because this is like a title that has multiple books in different cities. Like, say you were to have started from scratch and now kind of knowing what you know now, how would you have gone about trying to get an agent, or what would you have done, do you think?
Oh my gosh. The truth is I probably wouldn't have done it. I mean, I kind of view my blog as like this very safe space, and it's just what I do for kicks, to relax, to be creative. It's mine. I mean, there is no editor. I can say whatever I want to say, and so I never thought about just taking it and turning it into a book. And plus, I really like some books that were already out there. I mean, Eat LA was a great book, but it didn't say as much. It didn't give as many details, but it was a solid book. And I didn't think the market, needed this exactly. So yes, that's a really kind of lame response.
No,
I would have
We'll
just.
cut that out. We'll get that out for your publishers. We don't agree
My
with
family
it at all.
history that needs to be told. Yeah. I find that it's easier for me to just keep loving Gastronomy Blog when I don't have a lot of expectations for it. Everything is just kind of gravy. Like I get to go to Seattle and make cupcakes and hang out with Nichelle. Sweet. Everything's just bonus. Like I don't have to go to Seattle to make cupcakes. I don't have to, go to the LA Times food events, but it's just when I view it as just like a bonus, it's so pleasurable, and it would be hard for me to take this very pleasurable thing in my life and make it make money for me or make it something uncomfortable. But yeah, so that's, I don't know if I think you guys both talk to a lot of bloggers, and I'd love to hear, is that something that you hear a lot? Bloggers just saying, this is my gravy space. Whatever happens is just a bonus. Is that a strange attitude, a normal attitude?
What do you think, Rene?
I think that's a wonderful attitude. I think it's a wonderful attitude, and it just means that you're always going to win, right? Like everything, it's always going to be great. Whereas if you spent all day worrying about the metrics and the analytics and all this other stuff, and then it becomes, then it's another job, right? It's not.
Absolutely.
I think that sweet spot is being able to do what you love and then having success at it. And, that's exactly how you do it without that pressure of just enjoying it and letting it do what it's meant to do. So I think it's a great
Rene and I cry. We're like, it must be nice. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
But then I just the flip side is that it can't be my everyday. I go to work. I work in restaurant marketing, and I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, it's just gonna keep it a happy place.
What's that like? Oh, go ahead.
How do you fit that in? What is your schedule like on a regular day, and then how do you work in the blogging?
Yeah, well, let's see. So I work like a 9 to 5 in-house marketing restaurant group, and sometimes I blog at work. I know. DL.
Stay on the blogger's name.
But I'm not doing that. Just in the evenings and on the weekends, I try to write about 3 posts a week, maybe 2. Because I'm not dependent on like ad revenue. Ad revenue is bonus, and it's so crappy now. It's not even funny. But yeah, so about 2 to 3 posts a week, and then I edit pictures in the evenings while like watching TV on the internet. It's totally like laid back. And if I don't feel like doing something, then you know what? I don't feel like it.
You mentioned ad revenue. We have one banner on the site that I can't find it. Like it's somewhere in the code. But the funny thing is, this is like hysterical. To me, it's hysterical. The funny thing is that I tell my developer, don't take it out. If you find it, don't take it out. This company in particular I don't like so much that it costs them more to send me the check and to go through that. I'm like, make them send me the $2 check. It's okay. Because a couple times I feel like calling them and saying, I didn't get the check. Can they resend it?
No, I don't know how it, I feel like it just got bad in the past year or something. Like, banner ads, this is a whole nother kitchen party to have where I will have a drink and we will talk about banner ads.
Hey, we are going to hold you to that. We are going to get a group of bloggers together. We'll get like 5 more people in the room.
So you're watching blogging grapes.
And you want to be a part of that show, you tweet us at KitchenParty and we will add you to that show.
Like, what happened?
Over on Twitter, we have a few things that Cathy said and struck a chord. Some things don't fly in print. Kimberly Chronic says that's an excellent point about trying to leverage your blog into a book. And then also, I hope I'm going to pronounce this name right, Francois Villeneuve. I hope I
But
got
I'm
it right.
so glad she's actually wonderful. I always have a hard time with her name, and I'm like, oh no, she just checked in on Google Plus. I'm like, Rene, say her name.
Babette, did I get it right?
I think so.
I think Francois is right. I don't know about the last name, Viennois.
Absolutely.
But she says if you're going to write a guide, people need to trust you, and you need to trust yourself. So if there's anybody who's thinking about tackling a blog to book, that seems like it's good advice to follow from Cathy.
You know, Priscilla Willis also said, super fun. We're super fortunate, and thanks for the Orange County plug, Rene. And then Nichelle wants to know from Cathy, where in LA can I find Punjabi Mexican food?
Punjabi Mexican?
Punjabi?
You mean like Indian Mexican fusion? Well, I mean, I guess there's like those food trucks. No tomatoes, I guess. Or Indian Jones. I think you can get like a masala chicken in a taco or something. Food truck.
That sounds good.
New school food truck. But if you want to go, go ahead.
I was going to say, and Nichelle also said ad revenue is crappy. Amen, sister.
It was right. It's mind-boggling.
We'll get Nichelle on that hangout. That will be really interesting to talk about it, because I think the biggest problem with when you run a blog and you run a community is to be able to like talk to people and say, so a brand came to me, they want to pay me something. What do I do? And especially when you're very early on, you're like, I have no idea how to build this. I have no idea how to try. What do I need? A company?
Yeah.
What do I need? And to have someone to answer those questions. I always wanted to do a, this is totally side note, I'm sorry guys.
We're hanging out.
Yeah, I always wanted to do like a Yahoo listing where basically every day the group emails each other, like a Yahoo group, where we say, or a Google group, we say, so-and-so brand contacted me, blah, 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 blah. Let's all work together. Like, let's all figure out, like, what do we charge them? Like, let's make this happen. And, or just like, don't work with so-and-so, or work, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's another lifetime.
That's a brilliant idea. I don't work with too many brands, but people do approach you for some crazy things, like writing 500-word articles for like $5. Like, crazy talk.
Now, when you started writing your reviews, how did you pick the restaurants? How did you fill out? Because you already had some restaurants, but then how did you fill out because it's not just what you're interested in, it's also what you think may be like other people who maybe have different tastes.
Yeah, yes, and it's all a matter of taste. Something I think is awesome, you might think sucks, and that's totally okay. But I really wanted to pick places and genres that I thought were quintessentially LA. Like, new Nordic cuisine is really great right now, or big right now, but it's not LA. It's not, if you come to LA as a tourist, don't go eat new Nordic cuisine. But I guess red medicine is now new Nordic, according to Jonathan Gold.
Okay, so. I need to know what that is. I need to know what that is. What kind of food would that be? Like
that would be, it's like foraging for lichen berries. It's like Noma. So Noma in Denmark, like.
Are you speaking English?
Yeah.
You know what? She's doing a great job. She's doing a great job.
I don't know any of these terms.
I'm
just an eater.
Okay, so new Nordic cuisine, really big in Europe and New York City, but totally not in the book, because when you come to LA, I don't want you to eat new Nordic cuisine. I don't want you to eat moss, I want you to eat dumplings. I want you to eat Korean barbecue. I want you to eat carne asada. I want you to eat off a food truck. I want you to have fish tacos. I want you to go to Thai Town. I want you to go to Little Tokyo. I want you to have sushi, udon, soba. The stuff that LA just kills it in, and that's what the book is. I mean, not everyone is going to love every pick, and also so there's only about 250 restaurants featured in the book, and I was really inspired to make it a really tightly curated cast of characters because it's just more impactful. If I were to give you 10 Korean barbecue joints, it'd be like, well, which one should I go to? So I make up random kind of categories that make sense to me, like, well, if you want fancy Korean barbecue, go here, and if you want, hole-in-the-wall, cheap, $9.99 for lunch, all you can eat, go here, and just in different regions in Thailand, different regions in Vietnam, different regions in China, and just kind of digging deep that way. Of what LA does best. So it's not like, what's the best Chinese? Well, you're in LA. What's the best dumplings from northern China? What's the best Sichuan? What's the best dim sum? And I mean, LA is amazing like that.
So I think I know what you were talking about, because Anthony Bourdain did a show about the foraging stuff where they go out that day and they pick it, and then they come back and it's like they eat, like they dip the moss in the dipping thing, and they're like, this is the greatest stuff ever. I think I agree with you.
I'm going with dumplings.
Yeah. So when you had, so let's talk about also, we have about 10 minutes left of the show too, and I want to make sure that the folks, when the book actually, like how long did it take when you wrote it to the book actually hitting the stand? Was that like a 2-year process, or?
Oh my gosh, it was painful, because it's a timely book. Places are opening, places are closing. That actually was the most painful part. But so I turned.
Did anything close? Did anything close before you?
Like Susan Feniger's Street. That just. And that's just one example. It's really a painful part of the process, and I don't really want to bring it back up.
You just said street, and your audio went out a little bit. And I thought to myself, don't say traffic.
Cathy, I have to tell you, I was so sad. I was so sad when Street closed, because that's one of my favorite places to go eat. Like if I were up in LA and my husband and I were doing something, I'd be like, let's go over to Street. I loved that place. I was so sad when they closed. Oh.
She's really
and
cool.
Susan's so amazing.
Have you been to Mudhead? And?
I haven't.
Oh, I haven't.
I'm still hurt.
Yeah.
Great. But it was about a year. I turned it in December of 2012. It came out December of 2013. I have no idea what they were doing with the manuscript for 12 months, but they had it. That was painful. That was very painful.
Were they like, you can't tell anyone before this thing goes out, like, shh, that's the word? Or were you able to promote it at all?
No, it wasn't hush-hush, no embargoes or anything like that. But I personally didn't want to talk about it until, I touched it. And then I was like, hey, I wrote a book. Here it is. And you could order it. Actually, when I saw it on Amazon, it made it more real. But yeah,
about the author.
Superstitious.
Now, did you have to, because a lot of authors, when they talk about, when their book is coming out, they have to go into overdrive, promoting it and getting the word out, press and stuff like that. Did you have any help, or did you have to do a lot of it on your own?
Oh, so the publisher had a publicist, and she was in Connecticut and knew nothing about LA, so she was kind of useless. But
another thing we should not mention with the it's only. Your publisher won't get this far into the video. You're fine. You're totally fine.
I hope they do. No, but I have an amazing friend named Diana Hosfeld at Diana Takes a Bite, and she really helped me out with getting the word out about the book and getting it the press, and she just made those 12 months when it was painful. Working with Diana and getting the word out, the way I wanted the word to be out, that was healing, if you will. But no, I had a really great friend, and also, just Rene, she's fantastic. I'm on KitchenParty. This is great. And there's going to be an event at the LA Public Library in July. And I think just a reader works with the library and wanted it to happen. So
well, that's cool.
Yeah,
really
so
cool.
It's gonna.
What's that event gonna be like? What's gonna happen?
It's gonna be a Sunday afternoon in July. I think they want me to read from the book, which I think is gonna be kind of funny because it's not like a memoir, right?
People are gonna be drooling, right? They're gonna be drooling in the front row.
Valet parking.
$3 signs.
You should do it totally over the top.
Right.
Or get an actor to come in and play you. And be like...
Cathy, let me know the details about that, because we should tweet that out. I think readers would enjoy knowing that. That's fun.
For sure. Yeah, we're still landing on a date, but July, Sunday, I mean, I hope people show up. We'll see.
You know, if you just let people know about it, I think that's the key, is letting people know about it.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be fun. It'll be really fun.
Now,
I love the library.
What advice? I heard that libraries. I've been to the library, but I heard like their meeting room, like is it at the LA Times, Rene, or is it at the library? The event.
I'm not
it will be at the public library.
Because the LA, I know that the library is amazing, but the LA Times has an amazing venue. Like, you guys have a venue there. Have you been to it, Rene?
We have a few different places. We have one that's just simply a pretty big space. But we also have, it used to be kind of like former bigwig offices, like on our 6th and 7th floor. These atriums where they do public events, I mean, they are just, they're constantly used for movie shoots. They're just unbelievable. I mean, they're crazy gorgeous.
You're like, my office is on the 6th floor.
No, they don't even let us up. Like, there's somebody at the elevator who's like, what are you doing up here?
Oh, you're just a reporter.
Exactly. They're like, you're downstairs.
Oh, kitchen party, you're in the basement. So, Cathy, what advice do you have for people who are thinking about, we produce a conference called TECHmunch that goes all over the country. It's a food blogger conference. In fact, if you're watching, TECHmunch New York is on November 20th. Nichelle Stevens is our producer for New York. And then also Chicago is June 27th. We're then heading to Atlanta, going back to Nichelle's hometown, and we're producing an event there, and then San Francisco in October. But we meet bloggers all the time who like have a blog about baking or have a blog about gluten-free or whatever it is the topic is, and they all want to either make a cookbook or a book, a food memoir, whatever it is. What advice do you have for those people?
Man, oh my gosh. I am such a risk-averse, pessimistic blogger. So my advice would be to, do it because you love it, like blogging. And if a book deal works out, fantastic. It won't make you that much money unless you're the pioneer woman. And man, just do it because you love it.
What does the book get you in terms of? Does the book? Is there something that happens when you have a book out where like media or TV or something where they're like, oh, the author of such and such? Does that happen?
I mean, it's pretty cool to like read it. Like I was quoted in the Wall Street Journal about like the LA food scene, like author of the Food Lover's Guide to Los Angeles. I mean, it's funny. Like even though bloggers are not what they were in 2006, they're like pretty important people now. Like blogger as a title, it is not very impressive.
Yeah. We need to create a new title.
We do. So I mean, if you write a book, you get a better title. But yeah, I think, I mean, if you've got a great product and you've got, connections and you're willing to put yourself out there, I mean, and like even if all those things happen, it might not work out. You just do it because you love it, and not because you're going to be rich or famous. That's important.
So the exact opposite of what Rene thinks. I'm totally kidding.
You know what, Cathy? I think you're totally right about the term blogger. So what do you think we start a movement where it's publisher?
Yeah,
right?
Independent publisher.
You're publisher of Gastronomyblog.com. I like that. I think that we should kick out blogger and turn it into publisher.
Rene, it all starts with you.
Yes, because I press that publish button often. I am totally a publisher.
You totally do. You're a publisher. That's it. You're a publisher.
Publish.
All right, guys. It is 6 o'clock, and this is the time when we say goodbye.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure.
Cathy, so what is next? Like, even if it's not food related, what is next for you?
I I'm going to start a new job. I am going to be working with Panda Restaurant Inc., which owns Panda Express, and I start in a couple weeks, and I'm totally stoked. Because
we're going to get coupons for orange chicken?
Yes, with bacon. With bacon.
That's right, with bacon.
I have a request for Panda Express, which I eat there a lot.
Yes.
There are certain Panda Expresses, because I'm a vegetarian, that have no tofu eggplant. Like, you walk in and chicken meat. It's like,
yes.
And when they went through, there was like a change that just recently happened where they're like, no, sorry, we don't have any. And I'm like, as a vegetarian, and if I'm hungry, I get really mean. What am I supposed to eat, people? But
that's my book voice.
You eat that. So I need you to tell them that there is a vegetarian population who cannot just eat the steamed vegetables. I can't do it.
Done.
Thank you.
Done. I'm first day at the office. You got it.
You're like, oh no, you didn't just take that tofu eggplant away.
That's one of my favorite dishes too. So okay, you got it.
It's terrible.
You got it.
I'll walk in and I'll be like, where's my eggplant? Where's my tofu? That's the only thing I can eat here. And they're like, sorry. And I'm like, I'm a vegetarian. They're like, we have steamed vegetables. I'm like, please, dear God, help me. Anyways, okay, I don't mean to end it on that, but when you said Panda Express, I was like,
no.
Look, if you don't have connections with Kitchen Party, I mean, what the heck? All right, guys. Well, Cathy, will you come back if you have news to tell us? Like something's happening, you're doing your next book, we can talk about it even before the book comes out. And then will you come back for a monetization panel on like what the hell is going on?
What is going on? Can we get a blog her rep on there too? Because that would be amazing.
Oh, we can do.
That's a great idea.
Well, I recently talked to Blog Her, some folks over there. They've been very nice. But we'll ask them. We'll be like, look, all gloves are coming off. We want to know what's going on here. And then I'll be like, it's Cathy. Cathy.
Yeah, just tell. Yeah, I don't mind. I would love a conversation about ads.
Yeah. No. Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna get Nichelle to come on to that show as well.
Cool. That'll be fun.
Nichelle has like the #1 cupcake blog, and so. And also, she's writing for About.com too. She's doing their new cupcake section, which is really cool.
Nice.
So I feel like a proud mama, but it's like been around like as long as I've been around. But I just feel like I want to support her. You know, it's ridiculous. She's awesome.
I love it.
She's
Speaking of support, Cathy, please let us know about the details of the event at the library so that we could tweet that out.
Sure.
And that same goes for anybody else who's watching from Kitchen Party Nation. If you got something going on, let us know about it so we can help you share. In the same way that we appreciate you coming back each week and taking part in the show, we want to help make sure that we're doing our part to help you promote your own projects. So let us know what you've got going on so we can share that with our friends.
You know, before we leave, I just want to tell folks who's on next week. We have SavorySweetLife.com. Alice is on.
I love Alice. She's got the best chocolate chip cookie recipe ever.
I saw that because we got a Webby honoree, and she was nominated for her PBS show. So I was like, hey, congratulations on the thing, and I CC'd like PBS, and I was like, you want to be at Kitchen Party? And I'm thinking, well, and then PBS like starred it, and I was like, we're on their radar. And she's been very sweet. And then we have Amanda from IamBaker.net who's also on, which is really cool, that cookbook. Oh no, Rene, where'd you go?
I'm here.
Oh, your picture's gone. It's really funny. It's just your face.
I see my picture here. That's funny.
And then we have Christy Vaughn, who is PetLifeRadio.com. She's going to be doing homemade pet treats. Renee, you and I are going to be making doggy food. And then Gabi Dalkin from What's Gabi Cooking is on June 5th. Ida Mellencamp is on June 12th. And then we're doing a wine pairing with Columbia Crest June 19th, which is going to be very cool.
Ooh,
Renee,
that's going to be great.
I love how we're always like, we need a wine show. Maybe Cathy should come back for that.
We need more alcohol.
We're like,
I know, wine and wine, like wine and WHINE.
Right. Oh, yeah.
that should be the name.
Maybe a sponsor for the monetization show.
Yes.
Okay, that should be. We should have a second show. The party is like all the happy stuff, but we should create another show where we basically just wine and drink wine.
Oh,
Yes.
I love it. Just trash everyone and everything.
Yeah, we should wear masks. We should like something on our face. Okay, now we're getting ridiculous. And people have probably tuned out. If you're watching this far, you're amazing. You're just amazing. We love you.
High five.
Cathy,
High five.
Thank you so much for joining us. We love
My
it.
pleasure. Thank you for having me. Talk wine and wine next.
You got it. All right, we'll see you later. We'll see you next week on Kitchen Party. Bye.